Have you ever looked at someone and thought, how did they not see that coming? Or maybe you found yourself in a situation where, looking back, you realized you made a decision that wasn't the smartest, even though you thought it was the right thing at the time. We've all been there. It's easy to believe that intelligence is just about what we know, about accumulating facts, reading books, or acing exams. But what if I told you that intelligence, true wisdom, isn't just about knowing more? It's about how you live, how you treat others, and most importantly, how well you learn from your mistakes. You see, wisdom isn't just about being right all the time. It's about having the ability to reflect on our actions, to grow from them, and most crucially, to avoid the habits that keep us stuck in foolishness. And here's the catch. There are 6 undeniable signs that reveal when someone is lacking wisdom. These signs may seem subtle at first, but they hold a powerful lesson for us all. Understanding these signs is essential for personal growth, because when we recognize them, whether in ourselves or others, we can break free from the cycle of foolishness and start making better choices. Now, don't get me wrong, spotting these signs isn't about judging or criticizing others. No, it's about reflection, growth, and most importantly, awareness. The path to wisdom begins with being honest with ourselves, recognizing the moments when we slip into these patterns, and making the choice to evolve. So let's dive into this together. I want you to think about how these signs might show up in your life, and how recognizing them might be the key to unlocking your own wisdom. Ready to walk this road with me? Let's begin. Sign 1, closed mind. Have you ever met someone who is completely unwilling to even consider new ideas? The type of person who insists, this is how we've always done it, without ever asking if there might be a better way. We've all encountered people like this, and if we're honest, we've probably been that person at some point in our lives. A closed mind isn't just an inconvenience, it's a fortress. And the thing about fortresses is they're built with layers of fear, pride, and stubbornness. It's as though the person behind that fortress is terrified of letting anyone in, terrified that their ideas or beliefs will be challenged. The result? They reject anything that's different, anything that challenges their worldview, and in doing so, they block their own growth. Think about it. We all have moments when we dig our heels in, when we refuse to budge from a stance just because it feels safe or familiar. But when we shut ourselves off from new ideas, we stop evolving. It's like being trapped inside a box of our own making, where anything different, anything unfamiliar, feels like a threat. Take Mark, for example, a department manager I once worked with. Mark was stubbornly set in his ways. Despite clear signs that his team was falling behind the competition, he rejected the suggestion of a younger employee who proposed implementing modern project management software. We've done it this way for years, he said, and it's worked fine so far. But here's the kicker. While other teams in the company were adopting more efficient and modern practices, Mark's team struggled without updated processes. Performance slipped, morale dropped, and rather than addressing the real issue, Mark blamed his staff, the market, and even luck, but he never questioned his own mindset. Mark's refusal to adapt didn't just stagnate his growth, it held his entire team back. It's a perfect example of how a closed mind not only affects the individual, but can also block the growth of everyone around them. The irony is that by sticking to the old ways, Mark actually made his team less competitive and less capable of thriving in an ever-changing environment. This is where Stoic philosophy offers a crucial insight. Wisdom doesn't come from always being right, but from being willing to learn and adapt. True confidence isn't about knowing everything, it's about acknowledging that you can't know everything. The most confident people are those who are open to new ideas, who understand that they don't have all the answers and are willing to listen and learn from others. True strength comes from adaptability, from the humility to accept that change is necessary for growth. The Stoics believe that the path to wisdom is never about being fixed in your ways. It's about remaining open to the possibility of new perspectives, even when it's uncomfortable. When we close ourselves off to learning, we trap ourselves in a prison of ignorance. A closed mind doesn't just block your own growth, it also stifles the potential of everyone around you. If you see this tendency in yourself or someone around you, Take a step back, ask yourself, what am I missing by sticking to the old ways? How could embracing change lead to better outcomes? In a world that's constantly evolving, stubbornness and rigidity can keep us stuck in the past, while those who embrace innovation move forward. So here's the takeaway. A closed mind might feel safe, but it's a barrier to personal and collective growth. Be willing to adapt. Embrace new ideas, even if they challenge you. Because growth comes from change, and wisdom comes from the courage to acknowledge that you don't have all the answers. Only when the walls of stubbornness crumble can true wisdom take root. Sign 2, constant blaming. Have you ever been around someone who just can't seem to take responsibility for their mistakes? The type of person who is always quick to find someone or something else to blame when things go wrong? It's never their fault. The problem always lies with the market, the weather, the government, or someone else's incompetence. They're masters of excuses, and this constant blaming is one of the clearest signs of someone who lacks wisdom. Now let's pause for a moment and reflect. Have you ever fallen into this pattern? Maybe you've blamed your circumstances, a colleague, or even your environment when things didn't go as planned. It's easy to point fingers and shift the blame. It feels safer that way. But here's the reality. Blaming others doesn't just hinder growth, it prevents it altogether. Let me give you an example. Take Lisa, an event organizer I once worked with. Lisa was in charge of organizing a major conference. But when the event flopped due to poor attendance, her immediate response was to blame the marketing team for not promoting it well enough. Seems like a reasonable excuse, right? But after looking into it, we found that the marketing team's delays were entirely due to Lisa's failure to send them the event details on time. Yet, even when the truth was revealed, Lisa stuck to her narrative and blamed the marketing team, refusing to take any responsibility for her own role in the failure. Sound familiar? I think we've all been in a situation where, rather than admitting our mistakes, we deflect responsibility and pass the blame onto someone else. But what does this really do? It creates a barrier to growth. By refusing to face our own mistakes, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to learn from them. Instead of improving, we stay stuck in a cycle of denial and blame, unable to grow or change. Stoicism teaches us something crucial here. Taking responsibility for our actions is the first step to wisdom. The Stoics didn't shy away from their mistakes. In fact, they embraced them. They understood that accepting responsibility, even for our failures, isn't a sign of weakness. It's a powerful opportunity to grow. When we blame others, we refuse to learn from the situation. But when we take responsibility, we can reflect, learn, and improve. Imagine this. Every time you make a mistake, instead of finding someone or something else to blame, you ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Or how can I improve next time? That shift in mindset can transform your growth. It turns every failure into a stepping stone toward wisdom and personal development. Here's the warning. Blaming others creates a vicious cycle. The more you blame, the more you close yourself off from learning, and the more you remain stagnant. If you want to grow, if you want to live a life of wisdom, you have to start taking responsibility for your actions. It might not always be easy, and it might feel uncomfortable at first, but taking responsibility is the foundation of true personal growth. So next time you're faced with a setback or mistake, resist the urge to blame others. Instead, look inward. What could you have done differently? What can you learn from this experience? This is how you move forward. This is how you grow, and this is how you unlock wisdom. Sign 3, arrogance over humility. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a conversation with someone who just couldn't stop talking? They dominate the discussion, interrupt everyone, and somehow manage to turn every point into a chance to show off how much they know. They act like they have all the answers, and no matter what anyone else says, they just can't be bothered to listen. They might even dismiss others' ideas entirely, thinking they know better. The result? Not only does the conversation feel one-sided, but no real collaboration or growth happens. This, my friends, is a clear sign of arrogance, and it's one of the biggest barriers to wisdom. You see, arrogance often stems from insecurity. It's a defense mechanism, a way to hide self-doubt behind a facade of confidence. On the outside, it might look like they have it all together, But deep down, they're afraid of being exposed for not knowing something, or worse, being wrong. So what do? They overcompensate by dominating conversations, shutting others down, and convincing themselves that they don't need to listen to anyone else. It's a vicious cycle of insecurity disguised as confidence. Let's think about Michael, a manager I once worked with. In every meeting, Michael would talk over his colleagues, constantly interrupting and belittling their ideas. He truly believed that his way was the only way and that his ideas were far superior. But when a project failed and his team fell short of expectations, Michael never considered that his behavior might have been part of the problem. Instead of listening to his team's feedback, he blamed them for the failure. He couldn't see that his refusal to listen, his arrogance, had shut down the very collaboration that could have turned the project around. What Michael didn't realize is that true wisdom comes from humility, the ability to acknowledge that we don't know everything, that there's always more to learn, and that no one has all the answers. Humility is about being open to new ideas, even from those who might seem less experienced, and listening to others' perspectives without judgment. When we refuse to listen, we shut ourselves off from opportunities to grow, to learn, and to collaborate. And that, my friends, is the real loss. The Stoics, in particular, understood the importance of humility. They didn't view humility as weakness. They saw it as the foundation of wisdom. Humility opens the door to learning, while arrogance locks it. If we think we know everything, if we believe that we have nothing left to learn, then we stop growing. We stop evolving, we stop becoming better versions of ourselves. So let me ask you, how often do you find yourself dominating conversations? How often do you act like you have all the answers, or dismiss others' ideas before even giving them a chance? It's easy to get caught up in wanting to be the smartest person in the room. But here's the truth. The truly wise person is the one who knows they don't know everything. They're the ones who listen more than they speak, who seek out the ideas of others, and who understand that learning is a lifelong process. The Stoics remind us that wisdom comes from acknowledging that we don't have all the answers, and that there's always room to grow. When you stop talking and start listening, when you humble yourself enough to hear others, that's when you open yourself up to true growth. And in the process, you'll build better relationships, gain more respect, and ultimately become wiser. Here's the warning. Arrogance blinds us to opportunities for improvement. It shuts us off from the wisdom that others can offer. It isolates us in our own bubble where we think we know everything and no one else's input matters. If you want to truly grow, if you want to live a life of wisdom, embrace humility, listen more than you speak, acknowledge that you don't have all the answers, and be open to learning from others, regardless of their position or experience. Because true wisdom comes not from knowing everything, but from the humility to accept that we can always grow. Sign 4. Lack of empathy. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been around someone who seemed to not care about what you were going through? Maybe you've shared something personal, something vulnerable, and instead of comfort, you were met with indifference or even criticism. It stings, doesn't it? And over time, if this happens enough, you start to wonder, how can someone not care about the struggles of others? This lack of empathy is more common than we might like to admit, and it's one of the clearest signs of emotional detachment and ignorance. People who lack empathy fail to understand, or more often, fail to care about other people's feelings. Instead of trying to understand the struggles and experiences of those around them, they dismiss them, creating an emotional distance. This emotional detachment is not just harmful to the person who's being ignored. It spreads, leading to isolation and unintentional harm in relationships. Let's take Paul as an example. Paul was a colleague I once worked with who had a habit of criticizing his team publicly without ever considering the full context. One day, a team member, Susan, missed a deadline because her son was seriously ill. Instead of offering understanding, Paul publicly criticized her in front of the entire team, making her feel small and unvalued. His reaction didn't just hurt Susan, it impacted the entire team, who saw how little regard he had for personal struggles. His lack of empathy became a poison that affected everyone around him. People began to distance themselves from him, and the environment became less collaborative and more cold. This is the thing about lack of empathy. It doesn't just harm others, it harms you too. When you can't connect with the emotions and struggles of the people around you, you lose the ability to build strong, meaningful relationships. People don't want to work with, connect with, or even be around someone who can't or won't show basic compassion. Empathy is the glue that holds relationships together. Without it, you end up isolated, misunderstood, and alone. Now let's tie this back to Stoicism. The Stoics believe that true wisdom comes from connecting with others, understanding their struggles, and recognizing that at our core, we are all in this together. Empathy isn't a weakness, it's a strength that fosters deeper connections and helps us grow as individuals and as a society. The Stoics understood that it's not enough to live by your own standards or values. We must also strive to understand the lives and experiences of those around us. That's what makes us human. Empathy isn't just about feeling sorry for someone, it's about truly understanding their pain, their joy, and their experience, and responding with kindness, support, and respect. Empathy allows us to learn and grow through our relationships with others. It's a tool that can help us navigate the complexities of life and deepen our connection to the world. Without empathy, we become cold, distant, and detached. Much like Paul, who, even in his managerial role, alienated his team and stopped the flow of collaboration by his lack of care. Here's the warning: a lack of empathy diminishes your character. It makes you seem cold, unapproachable, and ultimately untrustworthy. People won't come to you with their struggles. They won't confide in you. They'll retreat, and you'll be left wondering why you feel so disconnected, why your relationships are so shallow. The truth is, empathy is a core part of being human. Without it, you lose your humanity. So what can you do to fix this? The first step is simple. Practice empathy by listening without judgment. Next time someone shares something with you, instead of rushing to offer a solution or a judgment, simply listen. Sit with their emotions. Reflect on how you would feel in their shoes. Ask questions to understand their experience better. And remember, listening is an active process. It's about being present, being in tune, and showing that you care. Empathy also means responding in a way that acknowledges the other person's feelings and validates their experience, even if you don't completely understand it. It's the difference between saying, "That sucks, but it happens," and saying, "I'm really sorry that happened. That must be tough for you." Small acts of kindness and understanding can build bridges where walls once stood. To wrap this up, a lack of empathy isolates you from others. It diminishes your ability to connect, to build strong relationships, and to grow as a person. If you want to become truly wise, start by practicing empathy. Listen to others, understand their struggles. Be present with them. This is the key to building deeper, more meaningful connections with the people around you, and it's the key to building a richer, more fulfilling life. Sign 5, fear of change. Have you ever felt a deep, almost paralyzing fear at the thought of change? Maybe you've hesitated to try something new or let go of a familiar routine, even though you know it's no longer serving you. We all have that comfort zone, the safe space where everything feels predictable, secure. And yet, here's the irony. The fear of change is exactly what keeps us stuck. It traps us in a cycle, hindering our growth and preventing us from moving forward in life. Think about it. How many times have you stayed in a job, a relationship, or a situation simply because it was easier to stick with what you know? Even when things weren't working, even when the signs were there that change was needed, it felt safer to remain where you were. People who fear change often cling to old habits, even when they are no longer effective, and resist opportunities that could lead to personal or professional growth. Take Michael, for example. Michael had lived in the same neighborhood his entire life. He knew every street corner, every familiar face, and felt comforted by the predictability of his surroundings. When his children suggested that he move to a new area to explore better opportunities, Michael resisted. "I know everyone here," he said. "Why should I leave?" But over time, the neighborhood began to change. His friends moved away, the local businesses shut down, and the community wasn't what it used to be. Eventually, Michael had to face the truth. His refusal to embrace change had left him behind. It wasn't until he finally decided to move closer to his children that he discovered a wealth of new opportunities, both for himself and his family. What he feared would be a loss turned out to be a gateway to something better. Michael's story is a powerful example of how fear of change can prevent us from moving forward, even when change offers us something far more fulfilling. And it's not just about big moves like relocating. It's also about the smaller shifts we make in our personal lives, our habits, and our mindset. The fear of change often stems from a place of comfort and security. We become so attached to what's familiar that the thought of venturing into the unknown feels overwhelming. But the problem is, if we never make those changes, we stay stagnant. We miss out on the personal growth and opportunities that come from embracing the unknown. Stoicism has a profound insight here. Change is inevitable. Life is constantly evolving, and resisting change is like trying to hold back a river with your bare hands. It's futile. But the Stoics teach us that embracing change with an open heart is key to living a fuller, richer life. Instead of fearing change, we can see it as a necessary step for progress. It's not about avoiding discomfort. It's about leaning into it, recognizing that growth comes from pushing beyond the boundaries of our comfort zones. Here's the truth. Fear of change keeps people stuck in the past. When we resist change, we're essentially choosing the familiar, even if it's no longer working for us. We're holding on to things that no longer serve us, all because of the fear of what might happen if we let go. But here's the secret. Change isn't something to be afraid of. It's the key to unlocking new experiences, new opportunities, and new growth. It's the path that leads us to who we're meant to be. Think about your own life. Where are you holding on to old habits, old ways of thinking, or outdated routines that are no longer serving you? What might happen if you took that step forward and embraced change, even if it felt uncomfortable at first? The Stoics remind us that we are always in control of how we respond to life's changes. Embracing change isn't about passively accepting it. It's about actively choosing to move forward, to grow, and to become a better version of yourself. Here's the warning. If you let fear of change dictate your life, you'll never grow. The past is behind you, and no matter how much you cling to it, you can't go back. So why not use that energy to move forward instead? The opportunities for growth and self-improvement are waiting, but they can only be accessed by embracing change. The more you resist, the more you stay stuck in the same place. But when you allow yourself to step out of your comfort zone, when you allow yourself to change, you will open doors to a life full of potential and possibility. To wrap this up, embrace change as a necessary part of your journey. It's the stepping stone to growth, the catalyst for progress. Let go of the fear that's holding you back and step into the new opportunities that await you. Because the only way to move forward is to let go of what's no longer working and embrace the new, the unfamiliar, and the exciting changes that will lead you to a richer, more fulfilling life. Sign 6, talking more than listening. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been around someone who just can't stop talking? You know the type, the one who dominates every conversation, interrupts others, and rarely gives anyone else a chance to speak. It's frustrating, isn't it? Especially when they don't even consider what others might have to say. The worst part is they never seem to realize that by talking more than they listen, they're cutting themselves off from the chance to learn. And in doing so, they're missing out on growth, not just as individuals, but also in their relationships. Now, we all know people like this, right? They're the ones who steer every conversation back to themselves, constantly making the discussion about their own experiences, opinions, and thoughts. It's not that they're bad people. They just don't realize that listening is a skill, one that's essential for growth and learning. Without listening, they miss out on the perspectives, insights, and valuable lessons that others can offer. They're not open to the world around them. Instead, they're trapped in their own echo chamber of self-talk, never fully engaging with those around them. Take John, for example. John was a father who always seemed to dominate conversations, especially at family dinners. He'd talk about his day, his thoughts, his opinions. Essentially, it was his world and everyone else just lived in it. His wife would try to contribute, to offer suggestions about family matters, but John would dismiss them without a second thought. He didn't mean any harm, but he didn't realize how his behavior made his family feel unheard, unvalued, and frustrated. They started to feel like their voices didn't matter. And over time, this created a rift in their relationship. Instead of fostering connection and communication, John's inability to listen made his family feel isolated. This isn't just about bad manners. It's a sign of deeper issues, especially when it comes to personal growth. When you talk more than you listen, you shut down the opportunity to learn from others. You become so absorbed in your own voice that you forget that there are other valuable perspectives out there. And without that openness, you stop growing. The Stoics had a clear view on this. They believed that wisdom comes not from constantly talking, but from listening, truly listening to others. Listening is an active skill that requires respect and attention. It's not just about hearing words. It's about taking the time to understand and process what the other person is saying. It's about showing respect for their thoughts, their experiences, and their wisdom. A good listener knows that every conversation is an opportunity for growth. They're not just waiting for their turn to speak. They're absorbing, learning, and reflecting on what others are saying. Stoic philosophy teaches us that wisdom comes from learning, not just from our own experiences, but from the experiences of others. The wise person is open to hearing new ideas, accepting criticism, and learning from everyone around them. Wisdom is a product of understanding, and understanding is built through listening. Now here's the warning. When you dominate conversations and fail to listen, you shut down opportunities for learning and collaboration. You stop creating a space where others feel valued and heard. And eventually you'll find yourself stuck in your own echo chamber, surrounded by people who stop contributing because they feel ignored. You miss out on perspectives, insights, and ideas that could help you grow. In the end, you're the one who loses. So what can you do to change this pattern? The first step is simple. Start listening more than you speak. Give others the space to share their thoughts. When someone is speaking, don't just wait for your turn to talk. Actually engage with what they're saying. Ask questions, show interest, and make sure they feel heard. You don't need to agree with everything, but by listening actively, you open yourself up to learning. You show respect for the other person, and you create an environment where everyone feels valued. Stoicism teaches us that wisdom doesn't come from always being right or dominating the conversation. It comes from being open to others. When you embrace the art of listening, you not only grow personally, but you also strengthen your relationships. You build deeper, more meaningful connections with those around you. To wrap it up, if you're the one who always talks, take a moment to step back and listen. Your voice matters, yes, but so does everyone else's. By listening, you create an opportunity for growth, for learning, and for collaboration. So next time you find yourself dominating the conversation, pause. Take a deep breath and give others the space to speak. You might just discover something that will change your perspective and your life. Conclusion. We've covered a lot today, and while it's easy to look at these 6 signs and think of them as flaws in others, the true value lies in how we use them to reflect on ourselves. Recognizing these signs isn't about criticizing others. It's about looking inward and striving to become better versions of ourselves. The Stoics remind us that wisdom doesn't come from always being right or knowing everything. It comes from admitting our mistakes, learning from others, and being willing to grow. Each of these 6 traits is a golden opportunity for us to evolve. They're not just warnings about the behavior of others, they're invitations to improve ourselves. If you recognize any of these signs in your own life, take a moment to reflect on how you can learn from them. Wisdom is not a destination, it's a journey, and every step begins with self-awareness, the willingness to look at ourselves honestly and identify areas where we can grow. Final thought, every one of us has room to improve. The journey towards wisdom isn't always easy, and it's certainly not about perfection. It's about progress, reflection, and being open to the lessons life has to offer. Embrace these signs as opportunities to become a more thoughtful, understanding, and wise person. You have the power to make that change today. Now that we've explored these 6 signs together, I want you to reflect. Which of these 6 signs are you exhibiting in your life? Are there areas where you can grow, adapt, and become a better version of yourself? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and share your experiences, whether it's something you're currently working on or a realization you have had. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more insights on personal growth and Stoic philosophy. I'm excited to continue this journey toward wisdom with you. Let's grow together, step by step. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.